Also, once again, I apologize for the extraneous background noise. My little shop has a window unit air conditioner, not much way to get around it, even at this time of year. Alright, this is the part that I'm most nervous about, actually removing the old nut. Now, how difficult this is kind of depends on exactly how they've attached it. Hopefully they've just used a drop or two of adhesive inside, but if they've super glued it in place, I could do serious damage removing this nut. Well, I won't feel really bad about that. So, the videos I have seen suggest taking a X-Acto knife and cutting along this slot. Don't know what good that does. You take pliers. Look at that. Fantastic. That went way better than I expected, gonna be honest. So here I have one replacement nut. Please fit in that slot. Okay, that is ever so slightly too thick. So I'm using this sanding pad so that it's flat. I don't think I'll have to remove much material just to get it into the slot. But more than that, do not want to have to force this in place. The annoying part, I'm going to, once I get all of the upgrades installed, I'll string it up so that I make sure I've got the nut exactly where I want it, and then mark the ends, pull it back out, and sand the ends of it off. Okay, that is closer, not quite. This would go faster if I were using a grittier sandpaper. This is actually a pad of 800 grit that I use for scuffing paint. I'm going to take my own advice here. And for anyone worrying about my table, I got this table for like $5 at a garage sale, specifically so that I could beat it up in the shop. So yeah, I don't worry about the occasional sanding mark or anything else with it, really. Did it go in? That is very, very close, but not quite. That really looks like it should go, but it doesn't. There we go. All right. So as you can see, the nut now sticks out on both sides of the neck. But before I mark and then sand that off to be flush, I want to make sure the strings are in place. So that'll be the last step. And having a better nut than the incredibly cheap plastic nut that came on it. That is just not a high quality piece of hardware there. That should make a big difference in the way this guitar plays. Okay. So that leaves my electronics. Let's see what the easiest way to do this is going to be. Go ahead and take this ground wire off on the trim claw. Well, not at all surprising. Dime-sized pots. That is interesting. Now what is interesting is that this is set up for a hum single hum. Or I should say routed for a hum single hum. Did not expect that. I could probably put a higher quality output jack on that. Not really sure what the point of that would be. So first things first. No real surprises here. Plastic base plates on the pickups. Big, no doubt cheap magnets. Dime-sized pots. Switch isn't too bad. As I say, you can see it's routed for hum single hum. Kind of wish I was putting a hum single hum in it now, but I'm not. I'm putting in, well, the pickups I'm using are single coil size humbuckers. They are humbuckers. Wow. This plastic overlay, I don't even think that's paint. I think it's just wrapped in plastic. And it really holds on to this wood debris. This is not an instrument where you want to look under the lid. So, if I am lucky, although I can already see that I'm not, because this has a tiny little hole for the output jack wire. Oh, man. My Guitar Fetish pickguard has these clips which make it very easy to install to an output jack, but they will not fit through the tiny little hole that has been provided. So we'll see if I can drill that out bigger. A bigger question right now is whether everything else is going to fit. I didn't want to take off the neck, but I think I'm going to have to. Why am I fighting this? Much better. I don't know what this body is made of, but that is the lightest guitar body I have ever held. Goodness. Really need to spend some time cleaning up my shop. It would be nice if at least one of the holes lined up someplace. Always the difficulty when going with cheap import pick guards. Nope, those holes do not line up at all. Well, actually two of them line up, and the rest of them do not. So that means I need to refill the holes and then re-drill them. Or I should say fill the holes and then re-drill them. Well, that's not unexpected. The trim block not fitting, that was unexpected. This is not unexpected. Okay. That is one more step that I want to do today, so we'll get to that at the next time I'm in the shop. Stay tuned. And I'm back. Alright, it really bugged me that I couldn't get that other pick guard to fit. So what I did was I swapped out all of the hardware onto the Glarry pick guard, which is cheaper plastic, but you know, who cares. So it's really blindingly white, but that works with the look of this. I have to say, the more that I work with this project, the more I'm convinced this is not worth the effort. This is just, man, this guitar feels so much like a $70 guitar. But that having been said, all that's left to do now, since I'm not going to modify the trim cavity so that I can put in a better trim system, is to install the nut and the trim system, and then, well, we'll see if all of this made any difference. Well, I guarantee it's going to sound different, but other than that, we will see what difference it makes. So in case you're wondering, the GFS system had full-size pots which barely fit in the control cavity and made the pick guard a very difficult fit. The GFS Little Killer is larger than a standard single coil, so I had to sand out the cavity for the pickup. I'm not sure that I actually sanded it enough. I may need to take this whole thing apart and sand it down some more, but I really hope not. And I did end up putting a better output jack on it, just because it seemed like if I was going through all this trouble with the electronics, I had to put a better output jack on it. So that's what I did. Alright, so I'm going to put the neck on it now, and then the trim system, and then I'm just going to put the nut in loose, string it up, and then mark the nut for sanding. So still a long ways to go on this project. Thanks for sticking with me.